Good evening. On tonight's episode, we're going to have the wonderful Maddie Watkins, the owner and founder of 202 Strong, a great gym in Bethesda, Maryland. Maddie's built an absolute amazing gym, an amazing community of fitness, of inclusion, just such a great thing. She's going to be talking to us today about some of her successes as a business owner. She's also going to touch on physical fitness, the importance of physical fitness, the importance of physical fitness with mental health, and just kind of all kinds of other topics. So stick around, stay tuned, and enjoy the episode.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, Maddie, how's it going? Good to see you here today. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So, Maddie Watkins, the owner of 202 Strong. I don't know, let's just start with what's the focus of your gym and what do you do there?
The focus of the gym, the reason we opened was to make strength training accessible. The barbell can be a really intimidating tool in fitness to use, but I think it's so important. And so the goal is just to provide a space and a community where people who might not typically lift can come in and learn how to lift the barbell and gain all the benefits from that without feeling too terribly intimidated.
I know a lot about that. So it's funny. I had the chance to go to Maddie's 9-year anniversary of opening the gym. And one thing I noticed, the first thing I noticed there was the diversity of the crowd that was there, the diversity of the folks that go to the gym. I don't even want to call them customers because they're really not customers. It's like family, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And for somebody like me, we were kind of talking about before this started, I grew up, I bullied a bunch as a kid. I struggled to go to the gym in more of like a self-conscious way. And I kind of noticed that here I am, 42 years old, and I still have those issues, even though I do go to the gym now a lot and I enjoy it. But it was kind of interesting for me, that was the first thing I noticed was just you kind of just said it too, very accommodating, very welcoming attitude of everybody. There was no like, this is a competition. There's no like, kind of like you said, people throwing weights around or very intimidating with the bar. There was none of that. And I thought just the whole group that you had there was obviously a testament to what you've set up. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit too. If, people like me or people out there, whatever age they are, what's kind of some ways you go about that to make it more accommodating for people?
I think the community helps to do that. The gym started with 50-year-old women.
Oh, wow.
Actually. So I was a personal trainer prior to opening the gym, and I worked with a bunch of women who would lift weights with me, and they would do deadlifts and pull-ups, but they wouldn't take a class and do it. They just felt comfortable with themselves and me. And so that group helped to start the community. And then others joined, and I think fostering that group of people who you have men and women in their 60s or people who have never worked out before, you feel comfortable. And even the people who are stronger, they're very kind because they've chosen to be in this community where we're not like, oh, let me rip my shirt off and, show you how great I am. It's more like we want to see you succeed, whether you're, older, younger, male, female, and just kind of celebrate where you are. And so the community, I think, really helps foster that.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. And then the coaches as well.
Yeah, it would seem like, you just attract that type of people there. So there's just zero intimidation. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
To me, that's what makes the gym, successful. I'm not going to name any other gyms, but I have friends that complain to me all the time. Like, oh, I hate going here. I hate going there. But just because it's, there's a million people, or it's just very intimidating or very uncomfortable. You get random people doing this, random people doing that, So
yeah, and I think maybe, I wonder why people who are on that more competitive, side of fitness, maybe our website is just a more friendly vibe.
That's true.
So they don't even want to come in because we're not going to be like, oh, you're so great.
Yeah. Yep.
We want you to be part of this community and help everyone else feel welcome. And people who've never lifted before come in and deadlift, and they walk out and they're like, wow, that was the greatest thing ever. I can actually do this.
Yeah. It's funny. I just had this thought, we had the first guest I've ever had on here was the team captain for my hockey team. And the biggest thing that he's kind of fostered there is this huge positivity. Everybody gets along.
Yes.
everybody is on the same page, whether you're just starting or not, which isn't the same on a lot of other hockey teams I played on. And especially on the adult side, people just can be miserable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if people are trying to relive their glory days of when they were younger and, I can intimidate this person, or I'm better than this person, or like you said, it's a competitive thing. I don't know, but I definitely get the accommodating, positive vibe from everything you guys do. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think that's what makes people want to come back and make it feel like a family, less than just a transactional place where, I'm going to the gym, now I'm done.
Yeah, now I'm done. Yeah, hour's over, I'm going home. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're right. They keep coming back. The groups, people stay together, people talk. I know, the fiance has made friends just out of that group. It's great. Yeah, I'm sure they all do that. Yeah.
As a business owner is really cool to see. When I see, groups of people getting together from the gym, or one girl had a birthday and everyone at her party was from the gym. And I'm
That's
like, that's
awesome.
really awesome.
Yeah, that's got to be a good feeling, because
Yeah.
really, if you think about it, you put that together, like you fostered that culture. Everybody's together because of that. That's going to be an awesome
It's
feeling.
cool to
So
sit back and
just look
at
at
that
it, right?
and be like, oh, wow.
That's
Give
awesome.
myself a little credit for that.
We do like to talk a lot about mental health here, and everybody always talks about mental health and physical health, or trying to promote that. Mental health is on the same wavelength as physical health. That's kind of one of my goals. But I don't know. Could you, in your opinion, throw some things at me about how physical fitness helps mental health, things like that?
Well, there's a lot to
there's
go
a lot,
there.
right?
I can share, my own personal story.
Okay.
Years and years ago, before I became a trainer, I struggled a lot with mental health and anorexia and depression, and learning how to lift weights made me feel like empowered in my body, and it look at what my body can do for me,
Right.
as opposed to just how I look. And that was the inspiration and the impetus for me to actually become a personal trainer, and then to open the gym. And then I think feeling that success and feeling like you are capable of a lot really helps to just lift you up as a person.
For sure.
Obviously, the endorphins of working out feel really great and
Yeah.
all of that stuff, but there is something specific to strength training and feeling strong and getting stronger that I think just has bounds of benefits
For sure.
to mental health. And it's really the reason why I keep coming back every day and waking up and getting to work with people, because I see how their lives change when they're stronger, and then how they just walk into the gym with more confidence and
Right.
oh, guess what, Maddie? I could put my suitcase in the overhead bin, or I could pick up my grandchild and it wasn't an issue, and they feel so great about themselves.
Yeah, it's almost like some of the mental health stuff that maybe people are going through that maybe you didn't even pick up on first. And like you said, they walk back in the gym 5 days, or 5 sessions later, and they're more confident all of a sudden. And it's like that. It's almost like an underlying thing that happens that you don't even notice sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know the severity of
Right.
what people are going through. Maybe it's very mild, but what I see is just that sense of confidence change, and the way that you carry yourself and feel about yourself.
It's funny. I grew up I'm still to this day a big 80s movie fan. Like, somehow in my head, I see myself as someday I'll have the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though that's not even practical, But for years, I was that guy that was like, I'm going to go to the gym, but it's more of it was kind of a check in the box, but at the same time, it was I just got to go. There was nothing else behind that. And if I go, I'll look good, even though my diet's a disaster,
Right.
It probably wasn't until maybe 5 to 10 years ago, it finally just something just clicked. I don't know what I was doing. Maybe it was some endorphin. I kind of remember doing some type of lift, and I was like, wait a minute, this actually there's a positivity feeling behind this, that it's not a check in the box. It's actually something else is going on. And I think once I realized that, it was a game changer. So now, we all have those days where I don't feel like working out today.
Right.
But for the most part, there's, for me now at least, there's those times I hit the gym and I'm like, it really is, to me, it's almost like an hour of solace, kind of like an hour of, wow, this all feels good. I'm doing good stuff here. And it's really more for me. And now,
Right.
It's not I don't care what other people think, how I look. It's not for a magazine. It's not for anything like that. It's just health, so.
Yeah, I have a client I recently started working with. He's older, about 74, and every time he would dread his sessions, and he likes to let me know how much he dreads it. And he said, I was going to cancel on you today, but I didn't, because I know I feel better after, and so I don't want to be here, but I know I'm going to feel better after.
That's awesome. Well, that must make you feel great.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's what it's all about, because once you kind of break into that barrier of I hate this, you're like, oh wow, I feel better
Feels
after.
good. Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah, there's something like about like getting like a really good sweat on and getting a good workout on that post, like, I'm sure there's a name for it, but just afterwards of like just feeling great. Like it's the same,
Yeah.
you know, I play an hour of hockey and afterwards like you take a shower and you're like, oh man, that feels good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Your body feels good, your mind feels good. You clear your head, you stop thinking about everything else going on in your day because you're
Yep.
focused on what you're doing or just the endorphins going. And
yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
an awesome feeling.
I always say our bodies are meant to move. And the more we sit, the more we want to sit, but then we're just like, ugh.
It's
kind
funny.
of.
So you just made me think of something like movement's a big key in mental health too. There's a lot of like, hey, no matter where you're at in your journey, it's like keep on moving forward. It's one of the things I always talk about. So it's funny that like movement in general just always seems to come back in one theme or another. And like you just said it in your physical fitness, movement, very important.
Right.
Mental health, movement, very important. It's just maybe movement's the key to life. I don't know.
Just one step forward.
Yep, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Just keep going one little step at a time.
I agree. So if you had somebody that's like on the fence about joining your gym or just a gym in general, or like, you know, wants to start some type of physical fitness journey, what would you, or they're struggling with that thing of like, I don't want to go to the gym, I'm intimidated. What kind of would be some of the things you tell them to think about?
To start small. So the first thing, like, you can't go from never going to the gym to I'm going to go for an hour, 5 days a week.
Right.
Pick like 2 days a week, 30 minutes, and just put it in your calendar, make a commitment, whether that's with a trainer or a class or something, some accountability, and do it and stay consistent. Give yourself a month, stay consistent. And then you'll want to be like, oh, I can do 3 times a week, or I can do 45 minutes or something. But I think with anything, you can't go all in 0 to 100.
Right.
Because that's really overwhelming mentally.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of, especially if you don't know what you're doing or you're new to it, like failure is probably pretty easy. And then people fail at something or something happens and then all of a sudden you're intimidated again or you're scared to go back. Yeah, discouraged, yeah.
And I would say don't try to work out on your own. If possible, you know, if you can afford it, get a trainer or go to a class so that you have that accountability and that motivation with other people. You have a program written for you as opposed to, I'm going to go to the gym today. And then you're walking around and I don't know what to do.
It's funny they say that going. So one of my former deployments when I was in the Navy, again, back to the days where I wasn't a huge working out person, we actually developed this kind of a group of folks, men and women, that would try to go to the gym together and do some type of workout together. And it was interesting how we did it. It was never like we'd write the workout on a board where we all lived and said, hey, if you want to do it, come on in, we're going at this time. And then we all kind of did it. It was very, you know, and it's funny, this thought just came to me, this story, but we would just go and work out. There was zero intimidation, there was zero stress. And for all of us, I think it was a big help.
And doing it together, I think, is important. Having that sense of community and camaraderie, I think, really makes a difference.
Yeah, I think that was almost more important than any of it. Like, you did push each other. There was there was good competitiveness in there where like we just pushed each other to do better. And we kind of kept track of where everybody was going because obviously everybody was different and what they could do. But it was definitely a positive time now that I look back.
That's awesome. That's something else I really like about fitness.
Yeah.
Is having the people, like when I work out in a class at 202 Strong, I'm all of a sudden like, I can't wait. I'm excited. Everyone else is working out with me. I push myself a little harder and I just have so much fun. And
that's
afterwards,
awesome.
I'm like, I'm ready to go. What are we doing now?
And that's probably the best part of it is the fun part. If they see you having fun, it's just gonna be better for the people there with you.
Yeah, but at 202 Strong, I want fitness to be fun.
Right. Yeah,
I don't want it to feel like a chore. I don't want it to feel like, oh, this again. And sometimes you're gonna have that, like, oh, I don't want to do pull-ups again. But in general, like good music, good energy, good people, always a different workout.
For somebody like me, I've never used a personal trainer, and obviously that's what you do too. What are some of the benefits of that? I mean, I think I can figure. I mean, I can think of a few, but like from your standpoint, what are some of the benefits? What
I notice from my clients is accountability. They will not work out on their own without a trainer, and that you don't need that, right? But I think also having someone who is going to show up, they care about you, they're there specifically for you. People feel like you might need that in your life.
Yeah.
And then a program that is going to target your specific goals or your injuries or limitations. So, I mean, I work with a variety of people, but for the most part, they're like, I just want someone who's going to meet me at my level. I'm not going to feel intimidated with the class, and you know what I can and cannot do, and you can help me.
And I assume as they go further in the program, you just, change things and make it harder, or make it, you just change it as it goes. Yeah.
As it goes. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, why am I holding this heavy dumbbell? What just happened?
You should be proud you made it to this point.
Yeah, look at you. They're like, yeah, I don't want to admit it, but it was easy.
That's funny. That's just some great stuff. Anything else you'd like to tell us about the gym, just in general?
It's hard to believe it's been 9 years.
That is crazy, right?
Yeah. And then February of next year, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's going to be 10 years.
10's a big year.
Yeah, 10's a big year.
Well, I guess going back, because you kind of hinted at it, but we didn't really talk about it. You said you were starting out as the personal trainer. Then what was the step that you decided to do the gym? How did you get to that point? Because obviously it's a big step. I mean, besides we haven't talked about the business stuff yet. That's a whole other ballgame. It feels like a pretty big leap, and obviously you've been successful at it. So I'm kind of just curious how you made that leap, or what your thoughts were.
I like to joke that I was very young at the time, so I was naive and had no idea what I was getting myself into. But I thought, kind of back to those clients, I had a small group training. I was renting space at another gym. And I thought, if they only want to work out in this group, but they won't take classes at this gym that we're working out at, there must be a need in the community for a space that's less intimidating. And I was like, oh, let me find space in DC, because I opened up a location in DC. Right. Then it just kind of all happened. And I think I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I had no business experience. Right. And so I thought, this is such a great idea. And it was, don't get me wrong. Sure. But I think now, if you said, oh, Maddie, open another location, you'd be like, no. I know what it takes. I know how hard it is. I know, starting a new location, what goes into that.
So your DC location was the original first one, and then you had the Bethesda one?
Yeah.
So you had two at once for a certain time there?
And they opened 2 weeks apart.
Oh, wow.
Because for whatever reason, I thought it'd be fun to open a gym in DC, but I lived in Bethesda. My clients were in Bethesda.
Oh, right.
And they're all like, we're not going to go to the heart of DC to work out. And I thought, oh, you're right. So I opened a very small location in Bethesda, mainly just for them. And then we expanded 2 years later to what it is.
And then did you end up, was it COVID that hurt the other one, the DC one, or was it just kind of a mix of stuff? Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
We celebrated our 5-year anniversary January of 2020 with 100 people in that DC gym. And then obviously March it closed, and going back to work in DC just didn't come back. And it was the best decision to close it. Yeah, I see it now.
Financially. Yeah, for sure. I can see that. One of my other contracts I work has me roaming around the city a lot, and I am in a lot of buildings, and it's kind of crazy to see literally the sheer emptiness of offices. Yeah. And even when, not even offices that people are in, there was just desolate parts of floors of buildings. It's crazy. You're right. People haven't come back to the city. Yeah. So like they did before. Yeah. Exactly.
So even the potential of where the business can go, I felt had a cap on it, and it would have just been a lot of money that
for sure.
I would have been responsible for in an economy in DC that just wasn't.
Well, I'm not going to ask you what you were paying for rent there, because it probably was absurd. Yeah. I have a antique business that I've contemplated opening a store for, and I was just looking at a storefront in DuPont Circle, really small, I think it was 1,000 square feet. The rent with nothing added was $8,300 a month, and I was like, there's no way. I'm not selling that many antiques a year,
Wow. Yeah.
So not happening.
Yeah. Rent, it was a lot of money. And so, things happen for a reason.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And it just kind of, I guess, was the time. Maybe I was meant to close that gym. Right, it served its purpose for 5 years. It got me a lot of awesome things, but.
Now, did you end up seeing anybody go stay with you and go to Bethesda? Or was it, because I know it's obviously kind of a tough, for people that aren't, not familiar with the area, that's probably a 40-something minute ride on a good day from DC to Bethesda. So
it is. Luckily, we had people who live in Bethesda and commute to DC. And so they would go to our DC location because it was near their work. But now they come to the Bethesda location, or honestly, they go to the office 3 days a week. So they can come,
That makes sense, right?
Hours are more flexible, it seems like, for depending on where you work, who you are, but it's not a lot of people, but
Right.
there's a handful.
I guess another thing that kind of makes me think is, what about virtual stuff? Is everything else is virtual nowadays? What about fitness? Do you do virtual classes too, or yeah, I guess yeah. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do in that realm? Anything? So,
I do virtual classes. I started a virtual program just kind of like on a whim the day that everything shut down in 2020, and I did a class every day, and I stuck with it because people still take those classes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, it's
so your kind of plan
lot.
was to do it through COVID and just kind of let it go. And
My plan was to do it for 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
Oops.
then here we are 4 years later, still doing it. But yeah, I built an online library and a subscription based for it. So I have a really dedicated crew that still does it, which is why I still do it. But I do 4 live virtual classes a week.
I would say too. I think for example, going back to my own experiences, the online library stuff is important because I'm not somebody that necessarily. I like to work out solo. I like to kind of have an empty gym, as empty as it can be. And for me, I do use an online library of something I follow, and I think having that as an avenue for people too does make it less intimidating too, because they can see how things work. They can see how you're supposed to do the exercise. They can see what the exercises are. Like, it takes all the guessing game out of it for people, and they have a plan. So.
And actually, that goes back to, you said if someone wanted to get into fitness, that's a good way too, because you can follow the workout, but no one has to watch you do it.
Yep.
Hopefully you're learning proper form. You won't necessarily know if you're doing it correct or not, but
Until you hurt yourself.
hopefully you have someone teaching you on the screen, and I do the workout as I'm teaching it
Oh, that's
so
cool.
that you can see me
Yeah.
squat. I teach you how to squat, but it just depends how you learn.
That's awesome.
So that's
people
another
can
one.
see it. Yeah.
People see me, but I don't see anyone.
Yeah. Right.
So
right.
then if you're really embarrassed, I'm not going to see you.
Yeah,
I
you don't know what happened.
You could
Yeah.
be sitting eating popcorn. I don't
Yeah.
know what you're doing.
Just watching these exercises.
Right.
That's funny. So what would you say like your mix during the week is? Is it a good mix of just doing virtual stuff and then in class, pretty much, or in the gym?
It's primarily in the gym at this point. A lot of personal training is what takes up my
right.
days. I go to some people's homes.
Okay, actually, that was a question I had too.
Yeah. So I'm kind of all over the place, and I didn't do any of this stuff before COVID,
Yeah.
which it's been nice. It's expanded kind of my opportunities.
Yeah, the home thing's kind of interesting because I feel like that's something that maybe post-COVID would grow. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like the old school doctor visits, But yeah, I can imagine people like, hey, I don't even want to leave the house. Can you just come and work out with me for an hour?
Yeah. And then it's easier if you, I don't know, depending on what you have going on in your life, if it's easier for me to come to you for an hour than for
Right.
you have to commute, shower, change, do all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
You can squeeze in a workout.
And then what about growing the, like I assume it's not you at the gym, so I'm assuming you got other folks there working with you, teaching classes. How's that been? Like, you got a good group of people there too?
Right now I have like the best team ever. It's awesome.
I think I met some of them, so I know what you're saying. So.
I have such a good crew. Over the past 9 years, I've obviously had like a bunch of trainers come and go, but some of them, I just had one coach move. He's moving to Peru, but he's been with me for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
I have someone else who's been with me
The whole
for
time.
9 years.
That's awesome.
Which is
that's
amazing.
That's the staple of what you got going on too. If people are going to stick around, right?
And I think they stick around for the community because
Yeah.
it's just such a special place, and they feel like comfortable coaching there, happy to coach there. They want to be part of that.
Well, it's almost like, it's family and friends. You don't want to leave your family and friends at that point, right?
Exactly. Because I'm clearly not paying like $100,000 salaries over
exactly.
here. But it's just, I hope it's a fun place to work and people want to work
I would
there.
assume it is.
I try to make it that. And
That's
I try
awesome.
to give people and coaches their own like autonomy and power to grow and, be their own coach and their own personality and
That's
not
good
have to
too,
just
yeah.
conform to one. There's obviously things you have to do,
Right.
but
There's some leeway there. They can do their own, kind of put their own spin on things. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit. We talked a lot about the gym stuff. Just kind of from the business side of things. I know you said, because I was probably in the same boat as you of like, oh, I'm just going to start this business and figure it out as I go, which I wish, maybe I'd snagged a mentor or somebody. And I know there's classes out there you can take and all this other stuff, but I think some of us are just like strong-headed enough that we just want to go with it.
Right.
And I think we're very similar in that. What were some of like the pitfalls that maybe at the beginning that you didn't realize was going to happen from the business side?
There was
Probably a long list, right?
so much. I mean, from just like the process of like signing a lease.
Right.
And
yeah.
all those things and the build out and how does that work and getting permits and this and that. And luckily I did have mentors and I did have people that were looking out for me. And then hiring people, training coaches, what happens when a coach doesn't show up or what happens when the washer and dryer breaks. And so we have no shower or towels and people are showering and going to work. And, there is just, gosh, I look back to those early days.
Yeah, I'm sure now for the most part, it's at this point, 9 years on, it's kind of a well-oiled machine. And I'm sure you still have those like random fires to put out, but
for the most part, I think managing people has been a big lesson for me. I've never
done that before. Yeah.
No, and I've also never been managed. I've always actually worked on my own. I was a waitress for a long time, but then I was a personal trainer and I kind of just
on your own, right?
Did my own thing.
Yeah.
So not having the experience of really having a boss per se, was like, I don't even know what to do.
Right. Maybe that's a good thing sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, so I always just ran the business how I would want to be. If I were a coach there, how would I want to be treated?
Right.
I like freedom, clearly. I'm very stubborn and I like to do things my way. So I like to give people that freedom, but also some structure and guidance. And I like to mentor people and help them. But I learned everything as I went. Everything. As
somebody who most of my career, had I would say the pleasure of managing a lot of people. It definitely can be a challenge. But one thing you said that sticks out to me, and I talk about it a lot when I talk like mental health and leadership and resiliency. And in fact, I was just talking about it to somebody this morning. Sometimes there's this like mentality of, I was treated that way when I was doing these things, and now I'm going to treat you that way. And for whatever reason, it's always negative. It's always somebody who's treated so bad, they're going to turn it on you when they're in a position of leadership or something like that.
Yeah.
And but you just said it, and it's a very important thing to me, I think, that we should harp on is how would I want to be treated? Well, that person that was treated like crap the whole time and now is going to be that crap leader, they don't really want to be treated that way, but somehow they're still treating people that way. And I think you made an important thing there is how do I want to be treated? That's how I'm going to lead people. I don't want to be treated like crap. I don't want all that negativity. And I think it's such a simple concept, but
It is. And is a leader somebody who's like a drill sergeant?
Yeah.
Or is a leader somebody who inspires people and uplifts people and sees potential in people?
That's who you want to be.
That's who you want to be. To me, that's what a leader is, not someone who's like, you were 5 minutes late.
Yep.
Obviously, that person knows they're 5 minutes late. They feel bad about it. I don't need to drill into that. They're not going to make that mistake again. Or it's out of their control. Traffic here is insane. You never know.
It is, yeah. What are you going to do?
Right.
You give yourself the time the leeway to get here in time and drive. I mean, I drive through the city all the time, and it's like, well, I'll give myself 20 minutes, and it might be 40 minutes. You just never know.
You just never know.
But I had a friend, and he's still a friend to this day, and we've discussed this, but I wouldn't call him a tyrant leader, but he has a mean streak in him where he was just a yeller. That's the type of leader he was. Mm-hmm. But it was funny. I had chances to sit in some of his meetings. Things would be good, and then like 20 minutes in, he'd be screaming at somebody. And it was awesome. It was interesting on being on the outside looking in, and you'd watch like the groups of people just check out. It'd be instant checkout when he went on some type of tirade or anything or something. So I agree with you. It's just very interesting. Interesting concept. There's so many different like leadership styles, this and that. I always, people sometimes ask like, oh, what do you think is the best leadership style? I don't think there is one. I think it's more of like you got to figure it out and then, do what you got to do.
I also think as a leader, you have to be very self-aware. And there's some leaders who are put in a leadership position but are not self-aware. Maybe they have anger stuff that they need to work through or whatever. You're going to put that on everyone else.
Yeah, save that for somewhere else. Don't put it on the team. Yeah.
Right. But the more self-aware you are and the more mental health work you do on yourself, I think you can show up as a better, more level-headed, compassionate person.
For sure. And, to come to find out, this one person I was talking about, they were having problems at home, which was causing some of that anger.
There
I'm like,
you go.
That doesn't necessarily belong. The funny thing is, you don't have to be angry at that as a leader. You don't have to be outwardly angry because of that. Had you maybe taken a different approach, your team would have probably been there for you. Right. And if you've been a little bit more vulnerable, been a little bit more self-aware and talked, some people on the leadership side would be like, I cannot talk about my problems with anybody, especially subordinates or things like that. I'm like, you're looking at it the wrong way. You might be leading a team, but you need to treat it more like a family. That's how I've always done it.
And we're all just people.
We're all just people in the end. Yeah.
So like it doesn't matter. Yeah. There was a time where I was going through a really hard time and I just didn't have the mental capacity to put too much into the business. There's only so much you can do.
Right.
And looking back, I should have said, I'm going through a hard time. I need some help. Can you step up?
Right.
I didn't. Some people stepped up, for me, which was really nice.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there should be no reason that you can't say, I'm going through a hard time.
Yeah. I'm struggling
I'm sorry
today.
if I'm
Yep.
kind of checked out, or if I know I could do better, but right now I don't have that capacity.
I knew I was successful in some of my leadership endeavors when people would ask me how I was doing. Because a lot of times, when you're in leadership position, it's kind of a solo. You're kind of on I don't like to use the word pedestal because that's not right, but you're kind of like on the solo part of the mountain where, every responsibility is going to fall on you in the end. But that's the point. And sometimes there isn't people to turn to if you don't have a peer to turn to or anything like that. But I found like there was times where some of the folks that were on the teams I was leading were, hey, you're not having are you having a bad day today, Josh? And like, oh, maybe I am,
Yeah.
But a lot of times you don't see a subordinate or somebody younger on the team asking the senior person that. And it's just, especially in the military, which was my background, it can be very rigid and very like, hey, don't talk to him, which is a stupid concept too. But it's just interesting. I find the whole thing interesting. So
yeah. And it's nice. You might be like, yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Or you know what? I am having a crappy day. Let's all go get a coffee.
Right.
Or take I don't know, leave work early today. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
something.
Yep, something. Well, look, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or anything like important that you think would be we should talk about?
I think we covered a lot. From fitness to leadership.
Yeah, we did cover a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah. It kind of all ties into life, I think.
It does tie into life. I agree. It's all like one big thing. So,
yeah.
Just it's funny. I will say this. I'm big on connections, and people used to joke. I'm like, how do you know so many people, or you talk to a lot of people? Even if you just say like, I like to just, as much as I tell people I'm an introvert, I do like to meet people, and especially people that don't do the same thing I do or have different things, because you never know when you're going to need to talk to somebody about something that, like maybe I don't know anything about the gym, and now I know you now, and we can talk. I'm going to ask Maddie because she just opened a gym, and she'll know what's going on,
right.
Like things like that. So I think it's just interesting, like just thinking, how I met you through my fiance, and it's just weird how these connections happen. I can look back 5 years and I wasn't even planning on being in DC, and then this all happened. It's just weird how these connections get made, and I think like people somehow get attracted to each other and become friends. It's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, I love getting to know people and getting to know their story. I think that's why I like personal training so much, because I really get the opportunity to get to know people.
Yeah.
And I consider myself an introvert. Now I think I'm maybe a little more extroverted than I give myself credit for.
I'd probably say the same.
Yeah, but I think just, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that I'm going to ask you about the stories real quick, but with my antiques business, one thing I didn't realize were the stories. And I have a lot of people that buy things, and they're like, "Oh, my father worked for this airline, and I didn't have anything. I never had any memorabilia." And all of a sudden, I get this like full life story from somebody that or my grandfather passed 10 years ago, and I get the full life story. It's just a really interesting aspect of that business that I never even realized. Even though items do have stories and they have connections to people, so you probably, like you said, I almost think. People probably talk a lot when they're working out.
They talk the whole session. I love it. I don't like to make small talk, so it's better for me. But I think it's just a place like for them. This is their hour. They can vent to me.
Yeah,
whatever they need to, and like this is going on, and
you're probably doing like pseudo therapy sessions, for these people, and it's because like you said, they're venting, they're working out and venting at the same time. It's kind of interesting. So.
Yeah, no, but it's part of my favorite part of it.
Yeah, for sure. What can you give the people your website and where they can find you?
Yeah, 202strong.com, and then on social media. 202 Strong. My personal Instagram is Maddie202strong. So if you just Google 202 strong, you're bound
You're gonna
to
find it.
Find me.
And the gym's where? Bethesda, right? Bethesda, Maryland?
It's in Bethesda, North Bethesda to be specific, but
Yeah, I've been there, everybody. It's easy to get to. Super cool gym.
yes.
So.
Come check us out or check us out virtually.
Well, like I said, Maddie, I'm glad you came on. I love the positive vibes I get from you. I love having positive people on. I love having people that, share their stories, have the mental health talk, in your case, talk about fitness, which is a very important thing. I think you're doing awesome things. The gym, and I don't even want to say the gym, the community, along with the gym that you've grown is just this like awesome, positive thing for everybody here. And I can't thank you enough for coming on. I can't thank you enough for sharing and being an inspiration for us all. So,
well, thank you so much for having me. It was fun to talk about
awesome.
everything.
Thanks. And hopefully you guys see all you guys there working out.
Yes.
So, all right. Thanks, Maddie.
Bye.
Raise your banner if you need help, and raise your banner to let others know you're a safe person to turn to. Until next time, stick around and keep on moving forward. Research conducted by Matrixa Research Group. Artwork created by Jenna Bordinger at jbordingerart.com or at jbordinger_art on Instagram. And music by Josiah Renton, DJ Slowbro.